technologically advanced healthcare system, because we've all improved our way of life, because we are healthier than prior generations, we're living until we're 92 or 3 or 4. This is a good thing. But the cost of that, the cost of all of that healthcare for our aging population is the biggest, fastest growing piece of the federal budget. We have got to figure out how to pay for this.
Stop giving
Everybody,
that would help pay for it.
Stop interrupting.
Don't be rude, please. If you're going to be rude,
Try hard. I know, it shouldn't
But
be that.
you're telling lies,
Do me a
and that
favor.
annoys me.
Do me a favor. If you're not having fun, just leave.
No, I am.
Quit interrupting.
Thank you. How to pay for this to preserve some of these programs for our kids and our grandkids is what we have to address. And everybody in Washington, you've heard me say this before, from Obama to Walsh, everybody right now knows that Medicare, just Medicare, will be gone in 12 years if we don't somehow change it. It will be gone. Bankrupt, goodbye, if we don't touch it. So to run around and say, don't touch Medicare, don't do anything to Medicare, is to let it die. That's just Medicare. Everybody in Washington knows this. So the real courage in Washington, Obama knows it, he doesn't propose to do anything with Medicare. The Democrats in Washington know it, they don't even talk about it. Along come the Republicans, and they know how hard it is to talk about Medicare, because you're going to get seniors and a lot of people really upset. You never talk about Medicare and Social Security. That's what all politicians are told. Don't touch those two things. Well, we look at the problem and we say, if we don't do something about Medicare, it's just going to disappear. Social Security's a few years past that. Same thing's going to happen. So we proposed something. We put out a plan that said we got to do something. If you're 55 or older, nothing changes. Because even we were so afraid to touch Medicare that we said if you're 55 or older, nothing changes. But if you're younger than 55, we need to change the program so that it's there for younger people. You may not like our reforms, you may not like what we've proposed, but give Republicans credit for being the only people in Washington to have the courage to admit what everybody in Washington knows. The country is broke. Medicare will be gone in 8 to 12 years.
So how do you
Yeah,
fix it?
go ahead.
I'm a high school teacher,
Welcome. What do you teach?
government.
Hey!
A lot of my students see our government as so polarized that nothing can get accomplished. And so what message should I give them?
Here's the message I'd give them, and if you want me to, where do you teach?
Timothy Christian and Elmhurst.
I'd love to come in and talk to them. I'm a teacher as well. When I'm done with this, I'm going to go back and teach. Here's what I tell kids, here's what I tell adults, everybody I talk to. I'm glad right now, and you know my opponents will probably use this on film, I'm glad the country is fighting right now. The fight that we're going through right now is long overdue. Long overdue. For so long, guys, and maybe you're not going to agree with me, but for so long, this great country has been asleep. We've lived our lives. We've tried to raise our families, start a business, go on vacation when we can. Every 2 or 4 years an election comes along, and truthfully, most of us didn't really pay attention. We kept sending the same people to Washington and Springfield, and the problems kept growing because our politicians, the only goal in life for a politician is to get reelected. So every election they come around and they promise people things. I'll give you more of this, I'll give you more of that, free contraceptives, free health care, free everything. And we reward our politicians, and we've kept electing them. We've been doing this year after year, and the country's been asleep. And it got to the point 2 years ago where I think the country finally woke up and said, oh my God, look what we've done. We're broke, we're about to fall off a cliff, the country's not working, and so we started to fight. I believe the country is going through a revolution right now. We're going through a fight and a debate about the very soul of what this country was founded upon. And if you don't believe well, before I say, but this revolution and this fight has just begun. And so I tell a lot of people, look, put on your seatbelt. This is going to be bumpy for a while. It should be bumpy. We're fighting about important things. We're fighting about whether we're going to have a country to give our kids and our grandkids. We're fighting about whether your government right now is going to have the courage to actually pay its bills or not, or just give our kids and our grandkids that bill. We're fighting about freedom. This is actually, it's very interesting to be in Congress right now, because we literally are having a fight about basic American freedom. Long-winded way of saying, I would tell your students, hey, you know what? Yeah, it's kind of ugly right now. Our politicians are fighting. The American people have finally woken up, they're fighting. I think it's a good thing we are. Eventually, we have to come together and get things done. I know that. But it's taken us about 60 to 80 years to get into this mess. It's going to take a few years to right the ship. And as we move in the direction of trying to get it right, it's going to be ugly and bumpy. And it should be. Look, I know there are people in here who probably disagree with me. I believe the basic American notion of freedom is at risk. And we are this close to losing the very freedoms this country was founded upon. You may disagree with me, but there are a lot of people who believe that. That's a pretty big deal. That's worth fighting for, and that fight is going to take some time. So I preach patience, and I also tell people, get involved. If you disagree with me, and you like where Obama's taken the country, my God, get involved and work hard for President Obama. We are fighting about big things right now. Don't be stupid and just watch Fox News or just watch MSNBC. You better be paying attention to both sides. And don't get turned off by the fight. Young people, senior citizens, and everybody in between, do not get turned off by the fight right now. Get engaged in the fight. Be glad your country is fighting. We're fighting for really important things. I think we're fighting for the kind of country we're going to give future generations. I'm glad we're fighting. It's better than sleeping. Yeah, but follow up. I mean, does that make any...
No, it doesn't. That's what I'll tell them on Monday.
Did you write all that down?
It's not. Look, guys, this isn't. And then I'll continue. That's not a really happy, peachy message to give. I would much rather be a politician. No, I wouldn't. But it's much easier to be a politician that just says, "Oh, don't worry about this stuff. Don't worry about the fact that we're $16 trillion in debt. Hey guys, don't worry about Medicare being insolvent in 10 to 12 years. I'm running for re-election. I want to get re-elected. I'll just promise you more. Okay? We don't have to worry about these problems. It's really easy to do that. But we went to Washington 2 years ago and we said no. The days of doing that are over. If we don't face up to our problems now, we may never be able to.
100 days, tax increase. Where are we at? What is the potential?
With all the end of the year stuff?
Is the potential? I mean, because according to the experts, it's a couple grand out of my pocket that I need to spend to send my kid to school. That's the bottom line.
Well, here's again. This is a big issue. it seems like every tax rate under the sun is due to expire at the end of the year. Understand the dysfunctional way that Washington did this, right? Extending things a year at a time, 6 months at a time. So the very nature of doing that is wrong. Because again, you're a businessman or a businesswoman out there, you can't live 6 months at a time or a year at a time. Tell me what my tax rate is, make it permanent, and get out of my life. That's not the way Washington has done things. So what's going to happen, I do believe, I got to believe that by the end of the year, some sort of extension is going to be arrived at. The House Republicans have already voted, once, maybe twice, to extend all of these tax rates for everybody for another year. The Senate hasn't acted yet. The President has said that if you make $200,000 or above, he wants those tax rates to expire and not extend. I'm going to be hopeful that before the year's out, something will be worked out.
Mr. Walsh, how would you make up for the revenue? How would you make up for the revenue if you were going to let these taxes, continue? How would you make up for the revenue? Because, it doesn't add up. If you have not got the money coming in, you can't pay for your roads, your police, your fire, your teachers. How do you make up that revenue?
I think that when you cut taxes and when you simplify the code, but mainly when you cut taxes, you increase government revenue. I think that
It didn't work. Bill Clinton raised the taxes and look what happened, we got a surplus.
Bill Clinton cut the capital gains tax dramatically.
He raised the
Bill
tax on the
Clinton cut the
corporations.
capital gains tax dramatically and revenue went up. Ronald Reagan cut taxes and government revenues went through the roof. John F. Kennedy,
11 times
John F.
Reagan
Kennedy,
added taxes.
John F.
That's not
Kennedy-
true.
John F. Kennedy cut the marginal tax rate and revenues went up. Historically, when we cut taxes and when we simplify the tax code, government revenues go up. So that's.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you're telling me Ronald Reagan raised the taxes 11 times. 11 times.
That's all right. That's all right. That's all right.
But I'm not, as a citizen, I'm allowed to speak up. I'm allowed to speak up.
Because it was better here.
I'm allowed to
It was
speak,
better
sir.
here than it was in Ireland at the time. So don't give me this,
If
I'm
someone-
from
I'm not-
Ireland and I know more than you do.
Well, that's
Go
fine,
back
sir, I
and
appreciate
have
that.
my agreement
All
with
I'm
you.
saying is that if you're gonna stand there and not tell the truth, Mr. Walsh, that's not fair.
Well, you're sitting
Because
there and not telling the truth.
You're telling the
You're
lie.
sitting there and not
Excuse me,
telling the
Ronald Reagan raised the taxes 11 times. 11 times Ronald Reagan
truth.
raised
And
the
then
taxes.
cut them. This is what we're talking about.
Well, that's the truth. Don't be telling,
Okay.
We got a street organizer for president right
Here's
now.
here's what history tells me. And do your best to let me finish.
But try your best not to tell
Oh,
us.
God.
Hey. There is not a member of Congress that does what I'm doing right now more than I do. And I purposely invite everybody to come to these things. It would be really easy if I just invited conservative Republicans who like me. That would be very boring, okay? I want all opinions at our town halls, and this is a mini town hall. I want all opinions respected, everybody's. Our friend here and everybody's opinion respected, okay? Here's what I believe. Here's what history tells me, and here's what I believe. When we let Americans keep more of the money they make, all Americans, good things happen. The economy grows. When we cut taxes, revenues increase because economic activity grows. We create more taxpayers. When we simplify the tax code, you'll get the wealthy to pay more because if we get rid of all these deductions and loopholes, they won't be able to hide behind deductions and loopholes. So historically, economically, if I want to increase government revenues, I'm going to cut taxes so I increase economic activity. I also want to cut taxes because I really truly do believe it's your money. Whether you're wealthy, middle class, or poor, I want you all keeping more of your money. My hope is something will get done by the end of the year. But you remember, nothing's going to get done now till after the election. and then you're entering that ugly sort of lame duck session where typically not a lot of good happens in a lame duck session. But I think generally most people in Washington don't want these tax rates to go up.
Well, why don't you do this? Instead of calling them the Bush tax cuts, I want you to rename
Tax
them.
rates, I don't call them tax cuts, they're rates.
Rename them the Obama tax rate. And you know what? They would pass tomorrow.
Well, and I tend to call them the Bush-Obama tax rates, because Obama already extended them.
That's all.
He already
Because
extended
if he
them.
didn't extend them, then the unemployment would have been suffocating
Yes, sir.
on unemployment.
Anybody who hasn't seen the movie 2016, you go see it right away.
I have not seen it yet. People who have seen it love it.
The next issue.
Thank you, thanks for coming.
I got